What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to Bring the Juice, guys. Week 1 of training camp is officially come and gone. The Indianapolis Colts had an off day today on a Monday. And so with that, we thought that we would look back at week 1 from training camp, kind of look at some different observations that we had, some of the local media had, just people in general had, and even hear, some comments from some certain, players and coaches and things of that nature. So we kind of just want to do a full recap. Obviously, the Colts started this week, no pads. The pads do come on tomorrow officially. So, some of this stuff can be taken, I think, a little bit with a grain of salt. But overall, I think we learned a few things going in from week 1 of camp. Very excited, obviously, for, how things change and, how things get updated here when the pads do come on tomorrow. But just wanted to kind of recap here. So, Derek, a lot that we can kind of talk about here. The first off thing we have to talk about, of course, has to be Parris Campbell, right? I mean, Parris Campbell has been absolutely lighting it up in terms of, the wide receivers. I feel like a lot of these wide receivers are looking really good so far in camp, but Parris Campbell in particular, he's really stood out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with his speed and his ability to make those contested catches, it's been very impressive to see him doing what he's doing. And after suffering another severe, knee injury, you're wondering how that rehab was going to go, right? But at the end of the day, he looks like the same old Parris Campbell that we remember when we first drafted him, right? And, they asked him a lot about, his 3 years of basically it's been rehab for him. The last 3 seasons has felt like that. Says it's been tough, but says he feels blessed that not everybody gets an opportunity like that, gets a chance to take the field. He says he's not going to take it for granted because he's experienced what it's like to have it taken away from him so many times, right? Only playing in 15 games in his first 3 years. So, certainly not the kind of availability you want out of your second round wide receiver that you drafted over guys like DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin, guys like that are lighting the league up, right? So you're kind of getting lost in amongst some of these people. But again, first week, it's favored for the offense in a lot of different ways, but it is nice to see Campbell not only, looking good, but performing very well in these practices as well, making great catches from Matt Ryan, getting open. He's being targeted a lot. And, really showing that athletic ability once again, that reminds you that we're praying to the football gods that this man stays healthy. Because if he does, I mean, we've said it so many times this last week, Campbell is a guy that is really going to revitalize this offense if he remains on the field.
Yeah, I mean, we even saw it in practice, right? Like, he can do a little bit of everything. I feel like personally, his route running has got a ton better. And I do credit that obviously to Reggie Wayne, the new wide receivers coach. He's really worked, I think, with him on that. And Parris Campbell, while he can burn you over the top, and we did see that, on more than one occasion at practice, he also can get open. He's finding those routes. He's becoming a little bit more crafty in his route running. And we did see that, where he would find gaps in that defense. And, so that's also very encouraging as well. And, Reggie Wayne, said that Parris Campbell's rolling right now. To quote him, he said he's rolling. And so, we hopefully that momentum continues on here in the coming weeks into the preseason, into the regular season, because you're right. If he is healthy, he's going to be a big part of this offense and probably one of Matt Ryan's favorite weapons if week 1 was any indication. But a couple other guys, other wide receivers that did stand out. Alec Pierce has stood out as well. He seems like he's a very perfectionist type of guy. And, Reggie's message, it was funny enough, to Alec Pierce was, relax, you're not going to be perfect. So it seems like the good thing is with Alec Pierce, being a perfectionist is he wants to perfect his craft to the best of his ability. And so the fact that Reggie understands that, and can just help him, be able to perfect his craft, but not try to do too much all at once. I think it's good because he has had a really good week at camp. He's made some nice catches. He's looked really good. Michael Pittman Jr. even said he's light years ahead of me where I was my rookie year. And we all know Pitt had a pretty good season that year as a rookie, obviously had the injury, but after that was really, really turning it on. So that should be encouraging for a lot of fans. So what are your thoughts kind of on Alec Pierce so far in his offense and really only 1 week in this offense for training camp?
Well, it's no secret that that was Reggie's guy, right? I mean, Reggie wanted him from the get-go, and you could tell that Alec has been taken under his wing, right? I mean, he's made it a special mission to make sure that Alec Pierce turns into the prodigy that he wants him to become. So it's no question that Alec is going to look good, and he's looked very solid. I mean, I think it was the second practice. I think it was that Wednesday practice where had a couple of drops here and there, but it was the first time being outside in training camp. The field was a little wet that day as well. So I know Reich also mentioned that on Saturday as well, said that the fields are still a little soggy from everything else going on because, Indy got hit with a lot of rain over the past few weeks, and the grounds are not as dry as what they normally are at this time of year. But nevertheless, Alec has looked very smooth. He's looked very, very poised, and it doesn't seem like the moment is too big for him right now. He's going out and using what he's gifted, his speed at that size and, being able to, and it just looks so natural to him right now, which is a great thing for a guy that's a rookie. You normally expect him to kind of compensate for maybe something he's not doing right now, but it just doesn't seem like it's too big for him right now. And that's a great thing to see for Alec Pierce, because there was a lot of question marks on if he would be able to adapt to the NFL. Well, week 1 of training camp, he definitely proved that he can.
Absolutely. And the crazy thing is all these guys are extremely young. Like even Michael Pittman, he's kind of the vet of the group. He's only 24, maybe 25. So yeah, this group is very young. And Reggie Wayne really likes that. He likes the fact that these guys, he even said that they'll get a little bit upset actually when they don't have enough time in the meeting rooms, because they're always asking questions. They're always wanting to know more from Reggie. They're always wanting to pick his brain. And, if you have guys that are wanting to learn more than less, that can only serve you well. And Reggie really thinks that, he really enjoys this wide receiver room and the fact that they all want to get better. And it seems like, at least from week 1 of training camp, all these wide receivers, all these young guys have shown flashes. Every single one, it feels like, is making a big play on this defense. And so it's really exciting to see kind of who's going to take, those last couple positions there, because I do really feel like, based off of Frank Reich's comments, we kind of already know who the top 4 are going to be, right? We all know it's going to be Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, and Ashton Dulin. Frank Reich talked about it in his press conference on Saturday. He said Ashton Dulin, who we think is probably going to be the 4, he's going to be a big part of our offense. So you think, automatically your top 4 are probably pretty locked in there. But I guess the question of the order, where is that going to fall as far as who's going to be the 2, who's going to be the 3, who's going to be the 4? I think right now, you do kind of wonder, okay, who is going to be, that primary number 2? Who is going to be that guy? And we didn't really get much of an answer, I don't think, quite yet. Obviously, it's still very early into camp. So, I think, but I think we did get clarity on, for sure, who are going to be the top 4.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen the top 4 guys with Pittman, Pierce, Campbell, Dulin. But, we talked about Matt Ryan from before and his ability to spread the ball around, and Frank Reich and Marcus Brady have already confirmed that as well. So, it seems like there's really not going to be a defined number 1, 2, 3, 4 when it comes to the guy who's going to effectively get the most targets every game. The game plan always changes for Indianapolis. So it's always a great thing, not having this number 1 prodigy, number 1 guy on there, and then everybody else is just way below him. It's like everyone is right at about that same pace, and you feel confident going to whoever any given week. It just depends on what kind of defense you're facing.
Yeah. Well, as far as the guys who are going to kind of be battling, you have guys like Patman, you have guys like QT, you have DeMichael Harris, you have Michael Young, you have some of those guys, Isaiah Ford. Like, there's a lot of guys out there, and it's pretty congested right now for who's going to be the 5 or potentially the 6 as well, depending how many, wide receivers and tight ends the Colts elect to keep. But it's going to be intriguing nonetheless. I do think we need to talk about Matt Ryan, as you just mentioned, because he has been lights out so far in Colts camp. From everything that we've heard, what we saw on Saturday, Matt Ryan has not only taken control of this offense, but he looks pretty good doing it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been like 80% on his passes so far in the first week of camp. So, it's been effective, and he's showing, a little bit of everything. And, we talked about, we kind of made the joke after the first two practices. Everyone was talking about how the Colts finished practice 10 minutes early each day. And when you and I were there, we finished practice 5 minutes early. And I think we would have finished earlier had there not been a giant crowd to please at the beginning of practice, things like that. So, this whole notion is, it's not that the Colts have been slacking any. It's just the fact that Matt Ryan has been making sure these practices are going a lot quicker. So it's forcing these guys mentally to lock in a little more. And they asked about that with Marcus Brady earlier in the week. Says that it feels great to see that because it's like game speed mentality, even in the practices, and that's what you need. That's what you need, especially for a young team. And it's crazy to see that. And he said that Frank Reich mentioned that we've never practiced this fast before. So we had the same number of plays as we've had in the past, but Matt Ryan's just making it move so much faster. So we never practiced like this before. Basically, we tell him what play to run and what we expect. But then again, we also tell him go trust your instinct. Don't flinch. Do what you need to do. And, so far it's looked pretty good in the first week of camp. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just going to prepare your whole team. Even your defense is going to prepare them to be more on it, right? We're go, go, go all the time. Yeah. And so, yeah, I love what he's done. And obviously his accuracy is off the charts, man. I mean, we all saw the play to Nyheim Hines where we were on the other sideline. I thought it was intercepted. I mean, but it was right off the fingertips, basically, right into Nyheim Hines' hands. And that just shows you how dead on accurate Matt Ryan can be. And just the way that he's able to, and even some of the deep balls, he has a couple deep balls to Paris Campbell, a couple to Doolin, he's still got it, man. He still has some juice left in that arm.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of good throws. He had one or two of them over the last week that we know that got picked off from Nick Cross. But, besides the fact of that, I mean, those deep balls are usually pretty accurate and they're pretty good right in the spot where, his receiver can go and get it. He had the one to Alec Pierce in the practice that we went to. And I mean, that was beautiful. A back shoulder fade where Isaiah couldn't get it. And it was just a beautiful throw. And it's things like that make you very happy that he's not only accurate, but in the fact that he makes himself accurate. He wants to be that perfectionist. And it's just part of him to be that kind of guy.
Absolutely. We've already talked about Kylan Granson a little bit of struggle from him, but we talked about also, Drew Ogletree and kind of what he's been able to do so far. And it seems like he's potentially making himself at least a case, an argument for the Colts potentially keeping 4 tight ends. What are your thoughts on Drew Ogletree so far in camp?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's been one of the more active guys in the tight end room so far through the first week. I mean, I know that Mo's obviously been very involved. Obviously, you want to get that connection because you expect him to be your number 1 tight end. Jelani has been getting some work in, nothing crazy from him yet. Obviously, you and I said Granson struggled the first week of camp, but that's okay. It's first week. Get a chance to go back out there the next couple weeks with the pads on, and we'll see if that triggers something else in him. But Drew, I mean, again, we talk about the size of him. He's the same size as freaking Mo Alie-Cox, so it's not like he's small in any way, shape, or form. And he had a couple of really good plays, especially on Saturday when you and I went, had a couple of good catches in the middle of the field. So I think even Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts even mentioned the idea as well on Twitter. Is it the possibility that the Colts go with 4 tight ends and just go with 5 wide receivers, right? Because you have a couple of guys that you feel in the running back room that you could potentially throw into the wide receiver position if you need to, right? AKA Nyheim Hines. So, would it be a terrible idea to have 4 tight ends, 3 of them being 6'6" and 260 pounds or more? How terrible could that be, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they do. You're right. Drew Ogletree definitely is making a case for himself. We'll have to see when the pads get on, though. Like you said, the pads make it a lot different. Guys can get a little more physical with you. We'll see how he handles being more aggressive in having to deal with blocking and those contested catches as well.
Yeah, speaking of blocking, we can talk about the left tackle position real fast. Seems like so far it's been pretty much all Matt Pryor at left tackle for the starters. Bernard Ryman's more been the backups and number twos right now. As we all expected, the Colts have not been shy about saying Matt Pryor is going to get the first look at left tackle. Definitely when the pads come on, this is where, you really get to see, all right, like who's got it and who's doesn't, especially in the offensive line when the pads do come on. So I'm really intrigued to see this. I'm kind of just like, I don't really take this with much grain of salt here because it's just like, how much can you do realistically without pads on? So I'm just looking forward, and I'm kind of like not really like taking this too seriously as opposed to in a couple weeks when they have a couple weeks of practice, full go under their belts.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you on that.
And then same with the right guard. Danny Pinter has been your right guard so far. With Will Fries has kind of been your backup guy as well there. One thing that's interesting so far, the number 2 and number 3 corner. There's been that battle, Isaiah Rodgers, Brandon Faison. Surprisingly enough, Brandon Faison's kind of been that number 3 corner so far in camp. And Isaiah Rodgers has had some nice plays and stuff. But Faison, as it stands right now, is probably your second outside corner that you have on your roster right now. What are your thoughts kind of on this battle?
Yeah, I've made my thoughts perfectly clear about I thought Isaiah was going to be the clear number 2 guy. And after this week, it doesn't seem to make me think otherwise. We saw Isaiah Rodgers in the moment of, giving up that touchdown to Alec Pierce Saturday. Next 3 passes, does a great job forcing an incomplete pass every single time that he got target after. So, he's definitely a good player. And Faison, I haven't seen a lot of him yet. Obviously, he's probably going to end up being behind Rodgers if I had to take my guess on it now. But it's good that there's competition there right now. It keeps it to where, guys stay hungry for that position. But I think that it's Rodgers' spot to lose at this moment in time.
Yep, we'll see. Staying in the secondary, also, Nick Cross has had more of an opportunity with Rodney McLeod still, kind of on the mend from that injury that he sustained when he started off on PUP. He's had some nice moments so far, Nick Cross has. When the pads come on, like we say, with everything, we'll see a little bit more about maybe he gets to display more of his physicality down there. What are your thoughts kind of on Nick Cross so far? Because it seems like he's had no problem, being the starter and making some plays so far in camp.
Yeah, Nick Cross has definitely been showing out, and it's great to see that because, we were wondering off the top, is Nick Cross going to even make those plays? How's he going to adapt to the NFL and how the game speed of everything is? And so far in the secondary sort of thing, we have seen a lot of great coverage from him, especially, on that first practice, right? Ended up with that great interception on Matt Ryan, and on Saturday's practice, almost had another one as well. So, he had a very strong first week, which is great. I love seeing that. And, with Rodney McLeod not getting a lot of opportunity that first week, coming off the PUP list, Nick Cross really had to show something. And I think even Jim Irsay, stated even after watching him, like how he looked this week, said he reminds him a whole hell of a lot like Bob Sanders. And he went there. That's the greatest safety in Indianapolis Colts history. And Jim Irsay's already coming out saying that, he looks a lot like him when he first came into the league. So, that's very high praise for a rookie as well. But, when you've been around as long as Jim Irsay, you definitely have seen a lot of things. So, hopefully, as we said before, when the pads come on, we see the same kind of aggression. We see him continue to make some of those great secondary plays because, we've been hyping up this safety duo with Julian Blackmon and Nick Cross a lot over the last few weeks. It's definitely living up to it after week 1 as of right now.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing I wanted to mention was just already Yannick Ngakoue has made his presence felt. I mean, he's completely just been dominating those offensive linemen so far, and even guys like Braden Smith, he's been able to make look silly at some point. So, I mean, overall, I think we need to be very excited about what Yannick's going to bring to this defense because he's already showing up in camp. He's already making his presence known, and same with Kwity Paye. He's also playing really well. It should make Colts fans excited about the potential of this duo that they're already starting to make some noise. Even in week one with no pads, they're already starting to do things.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Colts Nation is loving Yannick Ngakoue, right? I mean, like everything about this guy, right? I mean, there's all the last few weeks have just been insane. I mean, you and I have interacted with him several times on social media already, and so has a lot of Colts fans at this point. And, he just seems like a very down to earth kind of guy. And it's great that he's taking it upon himself to really get immersed in the Indianapolis community, right? He's been doing a lot of charities, nonprofits, doing giveaways and everything like that, trying to get involved with people in this community because he really wants this to try to be his last stop, right? Over the last 2 or 3 seasons, he's probably had enough of wondering where his next home's going to be, right? And he wants to have this one be the last one, hopefully. So it's great that he's doing that. And, we saw it on Saturday. He was doing very well against Matt Pryor. I mean, it's going to be great for Matt Pryor to, go up against somebody like him, who's obviously a proven edge rusher, one of the only few guys in the league that has had 8+ sacks every season since coming into the league. So not many guys that are much more effective at doing what they do than him. So I love it, man. I love it. It's week 1. We're going to see what happens when the pads start coming on. That's when it's really going to start being told how good he is versus somebody like Matt Pryor and Braden Smith. But I mean, the first week, I mean, even the following weeks before that, he has made a tremendous impression on this Colts community.
Yep, absolutely. So, guys, that'll do it for our kind of short recap here of week 1 of training camp for the Indianapolis Colts. Like I stated earlier, the Colts will be in full pads starting tomorrow on Tuesday. So, we are really, really looking forward to that and kind of hearing some things out of camp. Guys, if you're going down to camp on Sunday, be sure to look out for Derek because he will be down there. Sold out again, once again. Training camp sold out. So, Derek, very glad that you're able to get down there with the crowd behind you and a lot of hype going towards this, this Colts season already.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Cannot wait for that. I mean, that's going to be a heck of a fun time. Can't believe it's going to be sold out again. I think the only difference that we're going to have is it's just going to be a little bit warmer on Sunday because it'll be a noon practice versus being a 7 o'clock practice. But nevertheless, I'm excited. I can't wait to be down there again and get to watch these guys go in full pads. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing, guys, if you're watching this video, be on the lookout tomorrow around noon. We are going to be releasing our vlog, right? We recorded a lot of video on our Saturday that we were there at Grand Park. And so we kind of condensed it into about a half an hour video. So be sure to check that out tomorrow. It's gonna be dropping at noon. A lot of good content. It was a lot of fun to make as well.
Yes.
We were able to just kind of get a little bit more insight into the Colts and kind of give you a backstage look to what we were able to see for this Colts training camp as a part of the media. So be on the lookout for that. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for 12,000 subscribers. Really appreciate that. If you're still here and you haven't yet, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. It pushes it out to more Colts Nation so we can continue to grow, continue to give back to you guys, and continue to add more good content, good quality content for you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.